waiting for many months. And now the 25-year-old prince, Monseigneur Louis, already King of Navarre, who was succeeding to the throne, seemed ill-endowed for sovereignty. His reputation was that merely of a cuckolded husband, and whatever could be learned from his melancholy nickname of the Hautain, the headstrong. His wife, Marguerite of Burgundy, the eldest of the princesses of the Tower of Nesle, had been imprisoned for adultery, and her life was, curiously enough, to be a stake in the interplay of the rival factions. But the cost of faction, as always, was to be the misery of the poor, of those who lacked even the dreams of ambition. Moreover, the winter of 1314 to 1315 was one of famine. Part 1. The Dawn of a Reign. Chapter 1. The Prisoners of Chateau Gaillard. Built 600 feet up upon a chalky spur above the town of Petit-Andely, Chateau Gaillard both commanded and dominated the whole of Upper Normandy. At this point, the River Seine describes a large loop through rich pastures. Chateau Gaillard held watch and ward above the river for 20 miles up and downstream. Today, the ruins of this formidable citadel can still startle the eye and defy the imagination. With the Crac des Chevaliers in the Lebanon and the towers of Rumilly-Hisar on the Bosphorus, it remains one of the most imposing relics of the military architecture of the Middle Ages. Before these monuments, constructed to make conquest good or threaten empire, the imagination is obsessed by the men, separated from us by no more than 15 or 20 generations, who built them, used them, lived in them, and sacked them. At the period of this story, Chateau Gaillard was no more than 120 years old. Richard Coeur de Lion had built it in 2 years, in defiance of treaties, to defy the King of France. Seeing it finished, standing high upon its cliff, its freshly hewn stone white upon its 2 curtain walls, its outer works well advanced, its portcullises, battlements, 13 towers, and huge 2-storied keep, he had cried, "Oh, what a gallant Gaillard castle!" 10 years later, Philip Augustus took it from him, together with the whole land of Normandy. Since then, Chateau Gaillard had no longer served a military purpose and had become a royal prison. Important state criminals were confined there, prisoners whom the king wished to preserve alive but incarcerate for life. Whoever crossed the drawbridge of Chateau Gaillard had little chance of ever re-entering the world. By days crows croaked upon its roofs, by night wolves howled beneath its walls. The only exercise permitted the prisoners was to walk to the chapel to hear Mass and return to their tower to await death. Upon this last morning of November 1314, Chateau Gaillard, its ramparts, and its garrison of archers were employed merely in guarding 2 women, one of 21 years of age, the other of 18. Marguerite and Blanche of Burgundy, 2 cousins, both married to sons of Philip the Fair, convicted of adultery with 2 young equerries and condemned to life imprisonment as the result of the most resounding scandal that had ever burst upon the court of France. The chapel was inside the inner curtain wall. It was built against the natural rock. Its interior was dark and cold. The walls had few openings and were unadorned. Before the choir were placed 3 seats only, 2 on the left for the princesses, 1 on the right for the captain of the fortress. At the rear of the chapel, the men-at-arms stood in their ranks, manifesting an air of boredom similar to the one they wore when engaged upon the fatigue of foraging. "My brothers," said the chaplain, "today we must pray with peculiar